Hello guys, this is Richard. In this video we're going to do a real project in the AWS. The project we're going to do is something that you can showcase to any employer. It's something you can be proud to discuss about the project. We're going to take a look at how to manage volume storage stack in the cloud, in AWS cloud. We're going to take a look at how to manage logical volume. So we'll do logical volume management. We're going to do it in our EC2. We will add more volumes to our EC2, so we can use that volume to create physical devices. Then we will initialize the physical devices to become physical volumes. Then we will join the physical devices to form a volume group. Then in that volume group, we're going to create a logical volume. Out of that volume group, create a file system on it, mount that logical volume to a mount point, and actually use that logical volume to store some data. So we're going to do it in our AWS Management Console in an EC2 which we have already launched. If you don't know how to launch an EC2 in AWS, watch the video above that will show you how to launch an EC2. But this video is not about launching EC2, it's about going to the EC2 and provisioning logical volume. So let's go to the screen and we'll take it from there. Alright guys, let's dive straight into the project. So we're going to manage storage stack in AWS. We're going to create logical volume management, LVM. It's going to be part 1. So you are an the project is that you are an AWS cloud system Linux, an AWS cloud Linux system administrator. You have been tasked with the following. Create an LVM named LVM1 of size 5 GB from a volume group VG group. The volume group should come from 2 volumes. From 2 volumes that should be attached to your EC2 with sizes of 7 GB and 10 GB respectively. Ensure your LVM is mounted in /data persistently on an XFS file system. Create 5 files, file1.txt up to file5.txt in /data. So this is the project. Now, look at the action to be taken. Number 1, we have to log into AWS Management Console and start up an EC2 and connect to it. So let's do the first step. I'm going to log into my AWS Management Console. So I'm going to go to aws.amazon.com/console. While we're here, I'm going to sign into the AWS console. And I'm going to log in using my AWS root account. Okay, so this is my AWS Management Console. I'm going to go to EC2. I'm going to start up one of the EC2s that we're going to use for this project. Right now, I don't have any running instances. If I click on this, and I click on Filter, I have these 3 instances. I want to do this on the workstation. So I want to power this instance. Select that and go to instance state and start the instance. So that is number 2. Log into the AWS Management Console. We have done that one. So we can mark this as done. Then start up the instance and connect to it. while the instance is starting up, I want to connect to the instance using my POD. So let me start a new session here, a new POD session. I'm going to close this one. So let's take a look at our EC2, do a refresh, and the workstation is starting up. If you look at the details here, you see the public IP address. So this is what I'm going to copy, and I'm going to use it to log into the instance. The SSH is importing. I'm going to select my SSH keys, and I want to use it to connect. So I'm going to say connect. I want to accept it, and I'm going to log in as EC2-user. Okay, we are connected to our instance. We're connected to our instance, so let me increase the font a little bit. Change, go to appearance, go to change. Let me make it 20. I'll say apply. So this is my EC2. Okay, so I've connected to the instance. What I'm going to do now, since we have connected to the instance, we can say that step 2 is done. Start up an EC2 and connect to it. So I'm going to say this is done. Number 3, add 2 volumes of sizes 7 GB and 10 GB to the virtual machine and take note of their names. Okay, so to add volumes to this our instance, let's take a look at the volumes we already have here. So if I run this command lsblk, you see the volumes I have here. I have xvda. That is the only volume we have here. xvda is partitioned to xvda1 and xvda2 and xvda3 and xvda4. So xvda is the only volume that I have here. And if I go to the AWS Management Console and select the server, go to storage, you're going to see here that the only storage that we have here is that storage /dev/sda1, which is size of 10G. Okay. Another way to see the disks you have in your system, if I do sudo fdisk-l, you will see the devices that I have here. I have only one device, which is xvda 10G, which is the device that we use when we are installing the operating system, and that is where the actual operating system is installed in. So I'm going to go ahead and add more volumes. One of them should have a size of 7G, another one should have a size of 10G. So to add more volume to our EC2, we go to the EC2 dashboard, then navigate to volumes, then click on create volume. We're going to create a general purpose SSD. Size here, we're going to select type 7 for the size. We'll scroll down, and the availability zone is going to be where we have our EC2. So if I go back to the console, I have my EC2 in US is 1C. So I'm going to create this volume in US is 1C. Then I don't want to encrypt this volume. I just want to leave everything as it is. And come down to the bottom here and click on create volume. Come down to the button here. And I'm going to click on create volume. So volume successfully created. If you look here, the volume we created is 7G. If I refresh this, you will see it here. It is creating 7 gigabytes. Look at the date of creation. It's created in US East 1C. If I scroll down to the right, you see that the volume state is available. No alarms set. The volume is okay, no encryption, and so on. So let's go ahead and create the second one, which is 10G. Create volume. The size is 10. It's going to be in the same availability zone, US East 1C. Then scroll all the way down. Everything should be as it is, and click on create volume. Now if I refresh here, you will see that I am creating a volume of 10 gigabytes. And see this is available. So now we have created these two volumes. Yes, we have created these two volumes, but these two volumes are not attached to the EC2. If you look at the steps we have here, say add two volumes of size 7G and 10G to the virtual machine and take note of their names. So we have created them. The next thing is to add them to the virtual machine. So what we're going to do is go back to the AWS console where we have the volumes. We select one of the volumes. In this case, we select 10. We go to actions. Then we'll go to attach volume. We want to attach this volume to the EC2. So come here under instance. We'll select our EC2 that we want to attach the volume to. We're going to attach it to the workstation which is running. We'll select that. And look at the paths to the logical volume. We can choose one. So we have SDA, which is already in use, as you can see. That is the first volume where the OS is installed. But we have these recommended data volume names, SDB, SDC, and so on and so forth. If you scroll down, see SDC all the way to XVDA and so on. So I'm going to choose SDB. If I choose XDB, the volume name will be SDB. If I go down here and I choose something like XVDB, the volume name will become XVDB. So let's go ahead and choose XVDB. Okay, and click on attach volume. Then we'll do the same thing on the volume of 7 gigabytes. Go to actions, go to attach volume, and if we click on here, we select the instance, and if we select the device name, I'm going to use SVDC. The other one was XVDB. See, XVDB is in use, so I'm going to use XVDC, and I'm going to click on attach volume. So we have attached the volumes to our EC2. If I go to the EC2 dashboard and I go to running instances and I select the workstation and I go to storage, you're going to see the two storages that I just added, XVDC7G, XVDB 10G. And if I go to the operating system, if I go to the poly terminal, okay, and I clear my poly session and I type here, let me put this a little bit up. So if I come here and I type LSBLK, you're going to see that we have these volumes now. You're going to see XVDBC and XVDBD. Okay, so these are the volumes that we just attached, 7G and 10G. So we are asked to take a note of the names. So add them and take a note of the names. So the names, the path to them is /dev/ let me copy the first one, first one is XV. So I'm going to put the name here, /dev /XVDBC. Another one is /dev paste this name XVDBD. Okay, so XVDBD, XVDBC. Cool. So we have added the two volumes to our server and we've taken note of their name. So we can mark this done. Okay. Next is to create physical volumes from the physical devices. So these are our physical devices. These are our physical devices here. Physical devices we just created. This is one. I can say I, then I. Okay, so these are our two physical devices. We're supposed to do number 4, create physical volumes from the attached physical devices. So how do we create physical volumes? We run the command pv create. Okay, so we'll go to our command line and run the command pv create. We're going to do this using elevated privilege. So either I switch user to root or I run it as a non-root user with sudo privilege, but I would prefer to do sudo-i to switch user to root. Now if I run the command pv display, that will show me the current physical volume that I have on the system. It shows none. Also I can check pvs. I don't have any physical volume. So to create a physical volume, we'll run the command pv create, and then we'll put the path to our physical devices. And our physical devices, we have two physical devices, which is this one. Copy that, put it here, and the second physical device we have is this. So copy this as well. You can have as many physical devices as you want to be added to the volume group. It can be 1, it can be 2, it can be 3, it can be 20, it doesn't matter. But all of them should be here, separated by a space. So pv create /dev XVDBC and XVDBD, then press enter, and we see physical volume successfully created. The two physical volumes have been created. So going back to our project steps, so the actions we've taken so far, we are at number 4, create physical volumes from the attached physical devices. So I'm going to mark this as done. Okay. Next, we're going to create a volume group as required from the physical volumes created. So if we go back to the question says create an LVM named LVM1 of size 5 GB from a volume group, VG group. So number 5 says create a volume group as required. We are required to create a volume group called VG group. To do that, we run the command vg create. So go back to our command line and type vg create. Then again, we use the physical volumes we created. And those physical volumes are this /dev xvdbc and also /dev xvdbd. And we'll press enter. So when we do vg create, we'll give a name of our volume group. The question says create a volume group named VG group. So when we do VG create, we put the name VG group before we put the path to our physical devices, to our physical volume. So the name of the volume group is VG group. Then press enter. You see volume group, VG group successfully created. Okay, so number 5 is done. So I'm going to mark it as done. Sorry. So number 5 is done. Number 6 says create logical volume as required. The question says create an LVM named LVM1 of size 5 GB from the volume group. The volume group should come from the 2 physical volumes that should be attached to your EC2 instance with sizes of 7G and 10G respectively. Ensure your LVM is mounted in /data persistently on an XFS file system. So we have a lot of information here. Number 1 is that the LVM name should be LVM1. The size is that it should be 5G. Noted. And it should be mounted in this directory /data. So let's first of all create the logical volume with the size 5G from the volume group VG group. To do that, we run the command lv create. Then we'll put -n for the name, and the name from the question is LVM1. Okay, to put -L, capital L for size, we are providing the size in full. They gave us the size in 5G. So capital L type 5 GB. Then we'll provide the name of the volume group where the logical volume is coming from. And the volume group is VG group, which we created in the previous step. So LV create -n for the name of the LV logical volume, which is LVM1, capital L 5 gigabyte, then the name of the volume group. Press enter. You see logical volume LVM1 successfully created. Okay, we're getting there. So here we can check on number 6 as done. Logical volume created as required. So I'm going to say done. Next is to create a file system on that logical volume. Create XFS file system on the logical volume. Okay, so go back to the command line, and to create a file system, we run the command mkfs. mkfs stands for make file system. We're going to create a file system type as XFS. If I press the tab key twice, type tab, it will show me all the file systems that are available to be created in this operating system. That is mkfs, ext2, ext4, minix, vfat, and so on, including XFS. So we are creating XFS file system. So we run the command mkfs.xfs. Then we'll put the path to our logical volume, which is /dev/vg group, because the logical volume is coming from the volume group called VG group, and the name of the logical volume is LVM1. So we'll press enter here, and you can see that everything says done. Okay, so we have created the file system. So how do we know that we have created the file system? I'm going to clear my screen, and if I run this command blk id and I press enter, you're going to see here that the file system we created is here. Look at here, /dev/mapper for the VG group, that's the volume group. LVM1 is the logical volume we created. The UUID, this is the universal unique identifier, this long character or long strings of numbers, and the type is XFS. So we can say that item number 7 is done. So we have created file system on that. We'll mark it as done. Next is to create a mount point as required above.
If you look at the question here, the question says, ensure your LVM is mounted in /data persistently. So let us make sure that this mount point /data is created. So we're going to create that directory called /data. So go back to our command line and use the mkdir command to create directory called /data. Press enter. So number 8 is taken care of. Create a mount point as required. So we can mark this as done. Next is to modify FS tab for persistent mount. If you look at this question here, it says LVM should be mounted in /data persistently. What it means is that if you do not mount it persistently, when you reboot this server, that mount point will disappear. So for a persistent mount, we have to modify etc FS tab to add all the fields that are required. Then we'll come and mount it. So going back to the command line, I'm going to clear my screen and I'm going to VI to etc FS tab. Okay. Now I'm going to press Shift G to go to the bottom of the line and O to insert. So I am going to add the part of my logical volume. I can either use UUID as they used here, or I can use the label. Either one will work. Okay, let me use the UUID. So I'm going to exit from this file. I'm going to exit from this file and copy the UUID. So if I scroll up here, the UUID for the logical volume is this. So I'm going to copy this UUID and go back to the file system table. Then Shift G, go to insert. Then I'm going to do a right click to paste that UUID. You want to make sure that you remove this quote here. So UUID equals the whole of that numbers. Next thing is the mount point. We are going to mount it in /data, which we have created. The next thing is to put the file system. The file system, we are told, is going to be XFS. Then the next thing is our mount options. In this case, the mount option is default 0, 0. I will save our file. We have made this entry into the file system table. So the next thing is to mount the file system. Before we mount it, if we add on this command df-ht, you see that /data is not mounted. So now I'm going to run this command mount-a to mount all in the file system table. I press enter here. You can see that your file system has been modified, but system D still uses the old version. Use systemctl daemon reload to reload. So you want to run this command to reload the file system so the new version will be immediately become available for us to use it. So you run this command and we are done. If I do df-ht, you're going to see that /data is now available. Okay, so going back to our bullet points, number 9 says modify FS tab for persistent mount. We can mark this as done. Okay, and we have also mounted it. So the next, number 10, says test and ensure your mount point works by creating 5 files in the directory /data, file1.txt up to file5.txt. That is what we are told to do here. So what I'm going to do is to create those 5 files in /data. I'm going to clear my screen and I will say I will touch in /data, and the file names are file1.5. This command will create 5 files ending in .txt. That means to create file1.txt, file2.txt, file3.txt, file4.txt, file5.txt under /data in one command. So if I do ls-la of /data, to see the ls-la of /data, we can see the 5 files that are created. So we can cd to /data, and we'll do ls-l. We'll see our 5 files: file1.txt, file2, file3, file4, file5.txt. So with this, we have achieved what we are asked to do. So I can say here, done. So you can see number 10 is achieved, and number 11 is end of the project. We're done. That is how to create a logical volume in an EC2. So thank you for watching this video, and I will see you in the next one.